So I recorded this video before everything that's going on in Los Angeles happened. Currently, there's unprecedented fires. I think it's been officially declared the worst fires in United States history and the worst in Los Angeles history. You can hear my voice. My throat feels crazy. Just the minimal times that I've been out, the sky is full of ash. I have a bunch of friends that have lost homes or had to evacuate their homes. Some people that I have reached out to but haven't heard from, which is kind of scary because, you know, the owner of my old skate sponsor, or one of the owners of my old skate sponsor, you know, his house is right in one of the areas that's pretty much been completely burned out. So my thoughts are with everybody that's dealing with this. Myself and my family, we're trying to deal with this. And if you are in a position to help, I'm going to leave some links to places where you can help down below in the video. And everybody who's in LA and watching this, I hope that you're safe. And please take care of yourselves and your families and each other. Today I'm going to talk about something I've been meaning to make a video on for a little bit. I may have touched on this topic before, but never really gone into how detrimental this can be to your skating. Before I get into that, I want to thank the patrons. Consider joining. There's a link in the description. We have weekly now Q&As, and you can ask me just about anything as far as skateboarding is pertained. Also offer one-on-one video lessons. I'd like to also invite you guys to book a lesson with me. It's looking like the next week is still a little bit open, but after that I go back to my normal schedule where I'm booked up. But there is like a little bit of time in there. It's kind of tough because I'm street skating a lot, and there was a time when I would only schedule like 4 days a week for these lessons. And then during the pandemic, the demand was just so high that I was booked up. I would have been booked up like 7 days. And sometimes I would take like 7-day bookings for like a couple weeks in a row. Now I try to keep it to 5 or 6. But yeah, in the next week, there's some openings. But if you're not in Los Angeles and you can't do that, also consider online lessons with me. I do that with some of the patrons, and I offer them over FaceTime or Zoom. Or also you can send me a ton of your videos and I will critique specific tricks that you're trying. If you're interested in that stuff, I put a card up here. I will put a card up here in the future, and yeah, get at me. Also, I have a song coming out called Down to Size. Funny how time flies. Gonna plug it here. Feel free to pre-save that. It'll be out January 17th. And if you're into music like I am, and you're into specifically the type of music that I make, which is a hodgepodge of what I feel like 2025 should sound like. I don't believe in genres these days, obviously, because I think that's just marketing crap for people who aren't that discerning. And I think if you're making art in 2025, it should be a dialogue with all different types of things and different eras of things that came before you. So we're fortunate enough to be alive at a time where everything is within our grasp, and we could take and sample and create to express ourselves and create some idiosyncratic type of artwork that is uniquely us. That's what I seek to do with my music. I don't care if 5 or 500 people hear something, as long as the people who do hear it know that it came from me and is uniquely me. If you're interested in that sort of thing, consider subscribing to Dreadward Bernays, my music channel. Now, let's get into today's topic. I've been seeing it quite a bit with some of my students because they're at a point where they're able to ollie, they're able to pop shove it, they're able to, like, we're doing like rock to fakies, fakie rocks, tail stalls. Some of them are even doing frontside and backside disasters, a back tail here and there, ollieing off of a 4-stair. And what I've noticed is when we're trying to get their ollie higher, and when we're trying to just clean up some of what they do, they have this tendency. And this tendency is something that I notice in a lot of people, beginners and like almost intermediate skaters. Like my idea of what an intermediate skater is might be a little different from yours, but I see it even in people who can like kick flip, backside flip, tray flip some people. And the thing is, it's like you develop a way of moving that's not helping your skating. And this specific thing that I'm talking about is leaning in order to pop. So whenever I do any trick, the first thing that I'm focused on is being level. And now the ground's not always level, so I don't mean level in that sense. What I mean by level is having my weight evenly distributed between the front and the back leg. And I will have some video examples up here just to make it easy for you guys to understand, because this one, without those, it'd be kind of tough. It's not the type where I can just speak and you guys will be able to grasp what I'm saying, especially if you're doing this and you don't know, which if that's you, you're who I'm targeting with this video, obviously, because we want to fix that. I try to keep, if I'm popping off of my back foot, so I'm doing any standard trick, I try to keep my weight closer to the back leg than to the front leg, but have the weight evenly distributed. And that means when I crouch down to pop, I'm not going to lean on my tail to pop it. And this is what's happening with the few of my students who I see. They're squatting down, and when they pop, they're leaning back on their tail to make the board pop. So what happens is when we're trying to make them ollie higher, when you're ollieing higher, your front foot has to slide more vigorously so that you can lift your knees up towards your chest. But since they're leaning back instead of simply pushing their leg and using weight relief as they're pushing their leg to get the board up, when they try to lift up their front leg against the and up to their chest, instead of sliding their foot into the board more, they're lifting their front foot up off the board because leaning back onto the tail has completely thrown them off balance. In order to pop well and to have a good, solid snap, we want to keep our weight centered, right? So we can have a good... What I see from a lot of you guys and from a lot of my students is that you'll start off, you'll have your feet in position, you might even have your arms up, you squat down, and then when it's time to come up, you're leaning back like this. And so what happens is you can kind of get away with leaning back to pop at that stage. But once we want to start sliding our foot forward and picking it up, you start doing this. And that's because you're not keeping your weight properly centered. So I'm aiming to keep my head just in front of this knee when I squat down. I'm here, and when I push down onto the ground with my back leg, I'm gonna stand up to about here, then I start to push, I'm pushing back, and I'm jumping slightly forward. So it's like this, down. And now that allows me, when I wanna have some height, to not be leaned so far back that as I come up, the board rockets. So I can keep it centered. That's why I'm landing on balance, and sometimes you guys are landing like this and slipping back. So an easy way to get rid of this is to start by practicing this. I want you to push, set your feet up like you would for an ollie, bend down, and lift the board up, drop it back down. Make sure you're not leaning your weight back. Make sure you're staying centered. And then once you're able to do this comfortably, see how my weight stays in front of this leg? Then we'll start it with an ollie. You push, then, little ollie. Push, then, little ollie. Push, then, little ollie. Make sure you're keeping your weight in front of your back knee. It doesn't have to be so far in front that when you land, you're gonna fall forward either. We are gonna apply these things moderately, and you're gonna kind of adjust it to where it works for you. Where my head is exactly might not work for you. How far I squat down, you might not be able to do that yet, but you're working towards those things. And this is crucial because when you're going to learn tricks like a 5-0, things like that, if you're already leaning back, you're gonna get on a 5-0 and fall off. once you get good enough that you're going fast and you need to stop, the only real way for you to stop safely is like this, which if you're leaning back, you're not going to be able to make that work because as soon as you lean back, you're going to fall off. So it's important that you fix that now. Learn how to keep your weight centered. So focus on having it just in front of this knee. And I talked about it in some videos before. Just pretend you're a BLT. You got a toothpick stuck through your head. It's going down into the board. You're coming right down here, popping it. And the only thing that's going back is your back leg. The other thing that you can do is if there's a curb, if there's a manual pad, right? There's a couple different ways to roll off that. The first way that I always teach is to roll, allow your front wheels to touch the ground and then allow the back wheels to drop down because that's easier. But once you progress past that, right, you kind of manual off the edge of the manual pad, of the curb, whatever it is. Like you roll, you lift up your front wheels and then you let yourself drop off the ledge. I want you, once you're good with the ollies and rolling and lifting up and dropping back down, you're going to start practicing rolling off of a curb or whatever it is, and also making sure that you don't tip forward or backward at all. These three things will help you get a feel for not using leaning, like not using your upper body and not using changing your plane to get the tail to the ground or to get the front wheels up, because that's very important going forward. Like when I go to do a crooked grind, I'm doing pretty much a level ollie and then pushing forward onto the ledge with my leg. I'm not leaning forward for that either. I will have to lean forward if I'm crooking down something. If I go to 5-0 down something, I'm actually trying to keep my body straight, ollie straight out, and just push my back truck down onto the ledge. And that's, you won't be able to accomplish these things if you're having trouble keeping yourself level. So that is all I have for you today. If this is something that you're doing and you know you're doing it, please fix it right away. The sooner the better. It's going to help you accomplish a lot more in skateboarding. And especially if you're doing like slides and things like that, being level is going to help you a lot. Now, obviously, it's impossible for us as human beings to be completely level, and the surfaces we build are not completely level if you really want to get down to that micro level, but that's needless because these are imperceptible things we're talking about here. When I say level, I mean relatively level. Obviously, anybody with a brain understands that, but I have to say it because inevitably there'll be someone who wants to play semantic games in the comments, although that serves no basic function. For the rest of you guys who are able to use common sense, you understand what I'm talking about. And if you don't, ask me down in the comments. Consider joining that Patreon group. Don't forget to check out my single Down to Size. It'll be out January 17th. And yeah, if you're interested, you can get one-on-one lessons with me. I'm thinking of making a video about one of my students because he's progressed so far and it's actually amazing for me to look at. And he's kick flipping onto 50/50s and big spinning on the front boards on rails, and he skates exactly the way that I taught him as far as keeping level and using his squat properly, using his arms, and it's just amazing to watch. And he's progressed so fast. And also I was skating with Cyril Jackson yesterday, and he was like, dude, it's crazy how you're able to like pop, and then I can see you get like weightless and the way you're moving your body. And the reason I move the way that I move, the reason I'm able to pop as high as I am is because of the techniques that I tell you guys here. Contrary to what some people think, popping high is actually a skill. So you can be gifted with a certain amount of explosiveness. However, you're going to tap out at a certain point. And the reason I can ollie as high as I can now, which is like very, very high, which like top level high, right, is because of me whittling down those techniques. And I could actually get a little higher. I'm limited by some physical things that I've noticed about myself, especially at my age. I wish that I had discovered some of the techniques that I use with my ollie now, like 10 or 15 years earlier, but you get it when you get it. Enjoy skateboarding. Peace.